everybody, it's Joe Perrott, founder of the Ladies Working Dog Group. Are you feeling stuck with your Gundog training? Trust me, you're not alone, and that's exactly why you need to be here. Every week, we're bringing you the best tips and hacks to make training your Gundog easy peasy. We'll keep it straightforward, no fuss, just actionable guidance that you can put straight to use. So let's get started.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Found It Fetched It. This week, Claire Daniel and I are going to be talking all about why you may need to think twice about getting another dog and how they may not be the answer. Let's chat about this because I know I'm the first person to put my hand up and say I want a new puppy. What are some of the most common reasons people feel they need to get another dog?
So firstly, Joe, I'm like you. I need another dog, and I have got a multi-dog household. But my husband John will very honestly tell people that if he had it his way, he would be a one-dog household. But there are things, and going into your question, I think in the gun dog world, one of the reasons people might have multi-dog households is because they're developing the next dog to take over from one that's going to be retiring. So I think when you look at it from that perspective, that's one reason that people would benefit from having multiple dogs. But most of the time, the reasons that people want a second dog are not that. And quite honestly, probably it wasn't the answer. That's the truth of it, if we're honest.
I completely agree with you because sometimes I almost feel the need for another dog. And I completely forget the point I'm going to get another dog, that I've already got stuff I'm working on with the current dogs. So this for me, it isn't a case of like, I've got one dog and I'm worried about the dog being lonely, or that I'm even wanting the new challenge a puppy will bring. This is more about me being like, fresh start, let's have a new puppy.
Mm. Yeah, that's exactly it. And I think for a lot of people, sometimes we get so far on our journey with our dog, and we can maybe separate this out a little bit during the podcast to pets and then maybe more like working homes, because it is a little bit different. But I think a lot of the time you get going with a dog, and we all make mistakes during that journey, and we think, oh, I wish I'd done that differently in the beginning. So for some people, the reason they want to get another dog is because they think I could do better next time. I could achieve more next time. I won't make those mistakes next time. But then the next dog is a new dog with a different personality and a different temperament and different drives and different motivators. So all the stuff you learn with that first dog may not even be applicable to this second dog. So then you're back to square one from the beginning, because it's like I'm not having the same issues and I'm not having the same challenges. So all the things I learned from dog one, I'm not even using with dog two. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. And I almost think sometimes as well, there's that feeling that I'm a better trainer now because the years have gone on. So even if dog two is harder work in different ways, I'm ready for it. But the reality is we are not ready for it because we actually haven't been through those issues ourselves, have we?
No, exactly. That's exactly it. It's so complicated and so complex. And I think the reality is we learn from every single dog. Every dog has a different personality and it makes us a better trainer. But that doesn't mean that we're going to achieve the things that we maybe wanted to achieve with dog one, with dog two, because dog two isn't dog one. Does that make sense? That it just doesn't. In your head, it makes sense in the moment because you're like, yeah, I've learned this, and now to achieve this, I'm going to do this. But then you get dog two, and dog two is completely different, and you think, all the stuff I just learned with dog one, dog two doesn't care for. So now I've got to come up with a whole new strategy to achieve that goal. And so it is, but I think from that perspective, it's great learning. And from that perspective, it makes you a better trainer, but it doesn't necessarily make for a calm, peaceful household if you're with pet dogs.
Yeah. And also we tend to have some misconceptions, I think, around things like dog one is going to help me train dog two, or dog one will be absolutely fine. The dog two's just come into their household. But these things are not really the case. They can actually cause more issues. The dog one, can't they?
Yeah. So Indy was a prime example within our household. She would have much preferred to be a single dog for the entirety of her life. I'm fully aware of that. Don't get me wrong. She love might not be the right word, but in human terms, she loved Dude and Roe and then Jeannie. But the bottom line was she wanted the full undivided attention. She much preferred her single walks with me, her single training sessions with me. She really liked it when it was all about her. She was the one coming up on the sofa for the cuddle, and none of that was an issue. So although she, in whatever way it is a dog feels them emotions, she welcomed them and they were her mates. But 100%, I think quite often it's very rare. Well, I don't know, is it very rare? Okay, so I think less often than people think, dog one wants another companion in a dog. They've got their companion in you. So I think it's less often a dog wants another dog to come in because they don't know any different. We put that second dog in and we just expect dog one to go, yeah, hey, I've been waiting for you my whole life. And actually, the reality is some dogs will go, really? When are you leaving? How long do I have to share everything with you? The reality with a lot of dogs. But they might grow to form a good bond with that second dog or third dog, and they might grow to coexist with that dog. But does that really mean they wanted that other dog to come in? No.
There's also financial considerations because two dogs cost twice the money when you go to the vet, in food. There's obviously something like behavioural things that we've just covered, but there's also other things like space, isn't it? Because you wouldn't think a second dog or even a third dog will make much difference in a household, but it actually does because they have their own spaces, their own places they like to settle. If you only had one dog settling on the sofa and you now have three, that's you and the family sitting on the floor. And it gives all these different bits where we think, okay, me getting this small, tiny bundle of fur won't make a huge difference. It changes everything.
Yeah, it does change everything. And 2 is double. 3 is triple. I think the time, and it's the time for training as well. And I think this is the reality that hits a lot of people. They don't consider how long they're going to have to train those dogs separately for, walk those dogs separately for, if they really want to train the dog to a very reliable standard. The dog needs to have that individual time. There's things that you want to consider, ensuring that the puppy coming into the home doesn't overbond with the other dog and that affects its bond with you. You want to make sure that you and that new puppy are creating the bond so that dog sees you as a consistent leader figure, if that's the word we want to use, not the other dog. You don't want the puppy looking at the other dog as if to go, well, do we have to recall when she says that? You want the puppy to hear your recall and come to you because of that bond and relationship with you, not because it's checking to see if the other dog is going to go as well. So there's so many things to factor in. There's the space that you mentioned, the cost, the time for training requirements, walking time. There's just so many things to consider to ensure that you're able to give each dog its individual needs.
One of the things that always makes me want to have another one is because I love the whole like teaching them like the basic stuff and getting to bond with them, and it's all great and it's all fun. But I tend to forget, even though I am very much with I tend to forget how long it takes for a dog to become part of the household. For example, Meg's dog Goose, he's now a year and a half. Only now are we getting to the point where he's not all puppy and he's more adult and he'll chill absolutely where they'll chill without it needing to be all about him.
But it does take time. So it is silly things like crate space. If you're crate training the puppy, which is a very sensible thing to do for so many, that's a whole podcast on its own. But because the puppy is a puppy, it doesn't have the self-control. It doesn't have the ability to understand that it can't just be jumping around on the other dogs like a loon. And if your other dog is an elderly dog, it's not going to appreciate that either. So, and it does take time. And I think if I remember back, I think Rose still had a crate for when we weren't around. So when the dogs were unattended up until about a year of age. And I think Dude, before Rose, I think Dude was probably similar, 9, 10, 11 months in a crate when unattended, so that he wasn't bullying and pestering Indy, because when you're not there, you can't intervene. And then obviously we've now got Jeannie, so we've got a crate for them. Jeannie's got other things going on at the moment, so she still has a crate too. And she's now 10 months, and she's nowhere near mature enough yet that when we go out, would I leave her unattended with Rose and Dude? It would be carnage, I'm sure of it, because she loves them so much, but she just has no kind of like understanding. And because they are very soft dogs, they haven't they've appropriately corrected her for certain things, but she doesn't have that sort of boundary with them yet where she's like, oh, I must just lay here and settle. Mum and Dad aren't here thing, that I must settle. I know that wouldn't happen, and it would be horrible for Dude and Rose if we were to leave her out of the crate. So then things like that people don't even really think about sometimes when they bring that new puppy in, when it's how long will it be before that puppy is mature enough mentally to not require the crate and to be able to be left like the other dogs. There's just so many factors, isn't there, to think about.
I also think you could have a really well-behaved, really good gun dog, and when you bring a puppy along, it will use that time to test boundaries again itself. It'll go, oh, okay, I've just got away with that. Am I going to have a little go with that? And even though they know what the routine is, they will definitely, without a doubt, use it as an opportunity to see what they can get away with. Now, the lay of the land has changed.
Yeah, everyone just have to remember dogs are opportunities. They really are. And they've only got to take that opportunity and it be self-rewarding that one time, that they're going to keep trying that again and again until that behavior maybe goes extinct because it's been unsuccessful so many times. But yeah, you have to consider these things. But at the end of the day, I love having a multi-dog household. I really do. But it is hard work. It 100% is hard work. And my dogs have got great temperaments, but it's still really hard work. Sometimes when I work with owners who maybe one of the dogs in the household is a resource guarder or one of the dogs has separation anxiety, it's so much harder to resolve those issues when you've got a multi-dog household. So much management has to be put in place whilst we're doing behaviour modification. So it can be a major, major thing, and that can be very time consuming and quite soul destroying as well for the owner.
Having a new pup also completely changes our focus, doesn't it? Because we are working so hard to teach the new pup good behaviour. We can inadvertently, with no intention in the world, end up ignoring the older dog.
Yeah, that can happen, and that can cause resentment. So you do see sometimes the older dog, you'll see things happening in their temperament, personality, where you're like, this is a bit out of character. And that's because they're not getting the time, the training, the individual kind of time with you that they normally get. So they can feel some sort of resentment toward that puppy because they're not getting that. And I think that's one of the reasons why we try to educate owners so much on how to integrate a new puppy successfully into the home or a new dog successfully into the home, because those initial integration times will help the older dog cope and learn that this new dog coming into the home doesn't mean that their life is not still fulfilled and doesn't mean that they're not still going to get the things that they adore getting from you. But that again takes time management and planning from the owner's perspective to understand that this effort needs to be going into the implementation of bringing that puppy into the home so that you're not putting the older dog's nose, I think, their nose out of joint. What's the saying? Put the plan.
Out of joint.
Thank you. You have to. The older dog's nose is not put out of joint. That's it. That's how you said it, isn't it? By that new puppy coming in. Not one podcast can go by where I don't have a Clarism come out, honestly.
Terrorism, I love it. It's going to become great. What are some of the sort of alternative solutions to the common problems that we see where we think the second dog is going to solve? When you're thinking, this dog can't do this, so getting this new dog will solve that.
Cool. I think having flexibility around what you're doing with your current dog. If you think about the podcast we did, Round Peg, Square Hole, or Square Peg, Round Hole, whichever way round that was, I never remember. When you think about that podcast, just because the dog you've got currently perhaps cannot do what that original goal was, maybe there's other things you could do with that dog. Quite often I talk to people and they say, oh, my dog's not really into this. What can I do instead? There are so many fun activities you can do with your dog. That doesn't mean that just because your dog can't do, and let's say agility as an example. Let's just say your dog isn't into agility or you start agility, the dog maybe isn't as fast as you thought it was going to be. There are plenty of other sports you could try with your dog instead of agility, rather than go, this dog can't do agility, so I'm going to get a new dog in to do agility. Things like that. Because at the end of the day, for me, doing a sport with my dog is a bonding experience for me and the dog. It's been quite a recent thing for me now, this kind of openness to exploring, doing other stuff. I love gun dog work and Rose loves gun dog work and she's amazing at gun dog work. But she also really loves doing flashy heel work and position transition. And we have such a great time together doing that. And it's just a little bit different. So it's thinking outside the box. What else can I do with my dog that's bonding and fun rather than just getting stuck in this one little rut with the dog and feeling like it's that or nothing?
I can completely agree with that. And you get to the point where you think, am I flogging a dead horse here on this one thing? Or am I continuing to keep coming at the problem the same way? Even though I think I'm not, am I coming at the same way? And if I got another dog, would the problem be that I personally have still not grasped how to train this? Because I believe the dog, if I had got it, would have got this by now. Does that make sense? Like,
It makes complete sense.
or is it my teaching of the dog? I tend to sometimes think, oh, if I want to do field trials, my dogs are 12, or if I want to do working tests, my dogs are 12. And then I'm thinking, but is the answer a new pup? Or should I still get my dogs to the level that they could do a test? And now I look for the new challenge because I know this dog got to test level. So at least I've got a clue what that looks like.
Yeah, that's a really great way of thinking about it, Joe. It really is. And if you take working tests as an example, you've got veteran working tests. So even an older, more senior dog, if you get them to that level, can to put into working tests. And I think that then goes to another podcast, the age race. Why are we so hung up on how old the dog is and whether they can do this skill set? There's so many things to consider, but you touched on something and you said about the way you were teaching it. That's absolutely the key because maybe the dog can do it. It's just the way you've been communicating to that dog isn't right for that dog. So this is where having flexibility as a trainer, and when I say trainer, the dog's trainer, so the handler or owner is the trainer, having that flexibility to adapt how you're teaching a skill set. Your dog might be really capable of doing it. It's just the way you've been trying to do it hasn't been right for that dog.
I'll tell you something that I learned this week, and you'll be like, well, I've probably told you this 1,000 times, you crazy woman. But we've learned so much in our live coaching about what sort of commands and cues do I need? What don't I need? How can I make it work for me? And I've had this on-off problem with my two where if they are sitting by inside of me and I send one, sometimes the other goes. And I get not frustrated about it. I'm like, well, why does this keep recurring it's not every time. It's like,
Yeah.
I've been teaching a whole new command, which is behind. So when somebody brings me something and I say behind, they're not allowed to sit level with the other dog. They've got to go back a foot. And now they've stopped running in because they know if I'm the dog in front, I'm going next. So they chilled. And if I'm the dog behind, I'm not going next.
Yep.
Again, that's probably an unwritten blinking Gundog rule somewhere or Gundog training section that I missed, if that makes sense. But then always our dogs will think that they can't be fixed, want to win a better word. It can sometimes just be our out of the box thinking.
That's exactly it. It's that way, having them side by side wasn't working. So you changed it and it worked. And I think that can be applied to everything we do with our gun dogs, and that's where we always say, work with the dog in front of you. That's the saying that we always say. And that's absolutely it in a nutshell. It's like, this way isn't working. There must be some way that this communication can improve. There must be something about the way I'm communicating what I want to the dog that is not. Because let's face it, there are very few dogs out there who purposefully do something wrong. They're not out to get us. It's just that they're not understanding what it is we're asking them to do. So changing the approach or changing the setup, or that's thinking of your 3Ds, isn't it? So your duration, your distance, and your distraction, taking those things into account and going, what can I change to make this clearer for the dog so that the dog can get this right? And that's exactly what you did.
Yeah, for mine too, it was about creating this whole new word of behind, which isn't a new word, but it's just that telling them what I wanted to do. It actually eliminated a distraction because they went, oh, I don't have to jostle the position to see who's next. She's made it really clear who is next.
Exactly.
But I think as well, say for example, 3 weeks ago, I'd gone and convinced my husband, because I was trying to convince him I wanted to work in Cocker. What was I thinking? Then I would have still not solved the problem with the initial two. I would have just added another dog. Probably, in all seriousness, if I'm honest, would have just learned the same problem because she would have seen it in the other two.
Exactly. 100%. If you can't adapt with the dog you've got, how are you going to adapt with the next dog? You can't. It's about mindset, changing your mindset, being open to different methods, to being open to different techniques, to being open to watching what the dog is telling you. And I think that's often what's missing from training is the ability to look at the dog and read what the dog is telling you, guide their responses to what you're teaching. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and I think a lot of that is because as owners, as handlers, we are trying to make sure what we're doing ourselves, as much as we're trying to read our dog's body language, we're slightly unfocused, even in thinking, how am I going to teach this? Even that thought in itself has unfocused us.
Exactly. Yeah. The thing is, we sit here talking about it and we're like, oh yeah, got it now, get out on the field. And then you get on the field and you're like, what did I think? What did I say? You need the little parrot of yourself sitting on your shoulder going, this isn't working. Change something now. You could say, okay, this has gone wrong twice. You need to change something now. Stop anything. I will repeat every time.
I think everyone would download it because we all forget that one. We'll wrap up this podcast. If you were somebody who was like sitting on the fence about getting another dog, what advice would you give them about whether it's the right time to get another dog or not?
Okay, so can I give a few bits? So, firstly, get the dog for you, not for the other dog. That's really super important. A lot of people think they're getting the dog to help the other dog. So rarely is that the answer. So make sure you're getting the dog for the right reasons for you, not for the other dog. Secondly, make sure that your dog doesn't have, okay, how do I word this? Dogs are not perfect. I think this is important to say on this point. Dogs are not perfect. The next thing I'm going to say isn't saying your dog has to be perfect before you can get another dog. But if you have got serious behavioural problems or serious training problems, getting another dog at that point before those things are resolved is not a good idea. Because one, you're going to reduce the time that you've got to work on the issues that you've got with the first dog. And two, you don't want the second dog coming in and picking up on those things either. And not to say the dog will necessarily have the same behavioural problems, but the behavioural problems of the first dog could create different problems relative in the next dog. So that's a little thing that I would always say. I'm not saying your dog has to be perfect, but if you've got serious behavioural problems or serious training issues, you need to get those resolved and to a place where you're happy, even if they're not perfectly fixed, manageable, and not a big issue before bringing that next dog in. Integration is really important. So bringing that puppy in and having strategies in place to allow time for your current dog to learn to coexist with your puppy and teaching your puppy that it needs to respect the older dog's space, but equally teaching the older dog to also be respectful of the puppy so that you haven't got one bullying the other, whichever way that might go. So they would be probably my 3 biggest things to think about first.
Fabulous. Thank you very much. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you're feeling unsure about whether adding another dog is the right choice, you won't be alone in that question, okay? We hope that this podcast episode has absolutely helped you. At the LWDG, we offer expert advice. We've got the resources and the supportive community to help you make the best decisions with the dogs you've got now and the dogs that you may have in the future. From expert tips to practical tools, you will find absolutely everything that you need navigate your dog ownership. We hope that by heading over to www.ladiesworkingdoggroup.com/freebies that we can get you started on the right path today. Thank you, Kay, for another amazing episode. Thank you to everyone for listening. We hope to speak to you all next week.
That's it for today's episode. A massive thank you for tuning in. Don't forget to head over to the LWDG and sign up for our membership. Get access to expert-led training, a wonderfully supportive community, and the resources you need to become a confident and skilled gun dog trainer. Let's take this journey together because no woman should have to train her gun dog alone. We'll see you all next week.